do we punish or do we give consequences? What is the difference between punishing a child and giving consequences? And one of the key things here is our own self-control and not getting overly emotionally involved. It's a very key approach that we're trying to set up here, a system of parenting. We're going to parent with consequences, not punishment, but punishment lends itself to our being emotionally overwhelmed. Then we get overly enmeshed and take it personally when a child doesn't behave. Instead, I want to create an idea here for us that we're creating a system of parenting as opposed to personal parenting, even though parenting is a personal endeavor. Nevertheless, if we can use a system of parenting, it takes the personal affront, the personal chutzpah, the personal pain out of parenting and lets us parent from an educated point of view. You know, of course, we always say, never punish a child when you're angry. Count to 10 before you punish. Very hard to do. But if you think about it in advance, as we're doing now, and we're training ourselves to be better parents, I believe that we could set up a mindset of parenting in a system as opposed to parenting with a knee-jerk, impulsive, or instinctive reaction out of our emotional selves. We have to go to our higher self, to our soul state, and parent from there. Now, I encourage you as well to listen to the first 3 Zoom sessions of our Resilient Single Mother, where we go through the ideas of how a person can parent, not from emotions, but from the soul state, from a place of equanimity, of inner peace, of calm, of education, of chinuch, as opposed to personal affront, personal attack. Now, the personal attacks that we usually use in terms of losing it and losing control with our children are lectures, sermons, warnings, threats, name calling, raising our voices. And let's be honest with ourselves. After we do that, how do we feel about ourselves? How do we feel that we've lost it again? And we promised ourselves, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to parent that way. I'm not going to lose it. I'm not going to raise my voice. And we recall how sometimes, not always, but sometimes our parents talk to us that way and parented that way. We said, when I grow up, I'm not going to do that to my kids. And yet we find life gets in the way and we end up doing that same thing to our own children. So here's an example of running around in the grocery store where children who are 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 years old, 7 years old, running around in the grocery store. We're trying to shop. We see people we know. We get embarrassed. And it's a very, very usual situation where you see a child having a tantrum in the checkout aisle, wanting a candy or wanting a chocolate bar, and you don't want to get that child. That child's having a tantrum. And you're so embarrassed because everyone's looking and your people that you know you are looking and the cashier is looking. It's a very, very stressful situation. It's an everyday situation, but it's very stressful. And here's a scenario. Mother says, stop running up and down the aisles. I want you to stay close to me while we shop. Why are you touching everything? Put those bananas back. No, we are not buying candy. We have plenty at home. Please stop squeezing the tomatoes. I'm warning you, you don't listen to me, you're going to be sorry. Get your hand out of there, will you? I'll pick up the ice cream. You're running again? Do you want to fall? Okay, that does it. I'm done. Do you know how nearly you almost knocked over that old lady? You're going to get a punishment when we get home. You're not going to have a single spoonful of this ice cream when we get home. Maybe that'll teach you to behave like a proper child instead of a wild animal. Now, does this happen? Can this happen? Has this happened? I think it does. It's happened to me. And the question is, do we punish or do we not punish? Now, whenever that question comes up, it's a very, very poignant question for ourselves. What is this thing called punishment? And here are some of the answers that in this book, and I urge you to get this book, called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and How to Listen So Kids Will Talk by Faber and Maislish. It's a very, very important book, and we're using examples from this book. I think it's a very instructive, hands-on strategy book. And I'm quoting from this book about the workshops that they conducted. And here's what many parents have said about how can I live without punishing my children? The parents have said, well, if I don't punish them, my kids will get away with murder. They'll be lawless. Or parents say, sometimes I get frustrated. I don't know what else to do, so I punish. I lose it. Or they say, how will my child learn what he did wrong and not to do it again if I don't punish him? Or I punish my child because it's the only language he understands. Now, that is by default. We do that by default. We're emotionally involved, emotionally overwhelmed. We've got to get the family running. We got to get dinner on the table. We got to get homework done, kids in the bath, get up for school the next day. We're under pressure, and we get emotionally involved ourselves. That's why the first 3 steps of this program are find your inner peace, find your equanimity, find your soul state, and parent from there. First 3 steps of our Zoom group. Take a look at them on our Zoom channel. Now, when we parent that way, put yourself in your child's position. What is the child thinking and feeling when he hears those kinds of words? You're going to get punished tonight. Just wait till we get home. You're going to be grounded. You won't use your bike for 3 weeks. No ice cream for you tonight. It's the only language you understand. I'm going to punch you. I'm going to hit you. So what do we say about ourselves? Remember how we were when we grew up, and our parents sometimes, not all, but sometimes spoke to us that way. We would feel, I would say, guilty. We would feel ashamed, humiliated. We would also internalize the feeling and say, you know, he's right, I'm bad. I deserve to be punished. That's the seed, the planting of low self-esteem. One parent said, I used to fantasize that I'd get very sick and then they'd be sorry for what they did to me. Another parent said, I remember thinking, they're so mean, I'll fix them. I'll do it again, only next time I won't get caught. Well, punishment, in fact, leads children to feel hated, a sense they want to get even, revenge, defiance, guilty, unworthy, and self-pity and anxiety. But the problem is, we are in a catch-22. If I give up punishment, am I putting my children in the driver's seat? If I don't punish, will I lose my final method of control and leave myself powerless? So the authors of this book, Faber and Maislish, did seminars with the late Dr. Chaim Genot, a child psychologist. And they asked him this question: at what point is it all right to punish a child who ignores or defies you? Shouldn't there be punishment for a child who misbehaves? And Dr. Genot answered, a child should experience the consequences of his misbehavior, but not punishment. He felt that in a caring relationship, there is no room for punishment. We need to change the language of punishment to the language of consequences. It is not chinuch. It is not education. And our role as parents is to educate and train our children to be ready to take responsibility to get married eventually. Take responsibility for them in high school and in college and in yeshiva and in seminary, and then be responsible as a wife or husband and as a parent. But remember, what we're doing here is training a child to become ready to one day to become married. It's not so far off. They're 9, they're 10, they're 15, 16. That's not far off. And then the authors asked Dr. Ginott a second question. But suppose a child continues to disobey me. Isn't it all right to punish them then? And Dr. Ginott said, the problem with punishment is that it doesn't work. It is only a distraction. Instead of the child feeling sorry or remorseful for what he's done and thinking how he can make amends, he becomes preoccupied with revenge fantasies. In other words, by punishing a child, we actually deprive him of the very important inner process of facing his own misbehavior and turning to his own self as how he can self-improve. When we use these languages of you're no good, you're misbehaving, you're a wild animal, I'm going to punish you, what we're doing is we're crushing their self-esteem. As my teacher and mentor at Rebbe, Rabbi Tversky, would say, we are crushing their ability to have free will, to make choices, to repair themselves. So therefore, this is a very, very novel approach, that punishment distracts the child from what they need to do, which is to think about what they're doing, think about what they've done, self-reflect, look inside, and then make a choice. But if we are using language which is out of control, we're out of control, by emotionally out of control, and we're crushing their self-esteem by using character assassination. You're no good, you're a wild animal, you're selfish, you're mean, you're insensitive, and because we're losing it ourselves, then we are crushing their ability to make a free choice. And that's the point. The point is to maintain their ability to make a free choice, to do teshuvah, to do return, to repair, to self-reflect, to self-improve. But that has to come from them. So our job as parents is to educate them of how to self-analyze, self-introspect, self-reflect. They can only do that in an environment of positivity, not when they're crushed. So let's turn to a couple of examples here, and I'm going to share my screen with you of how we can learn in the supermarket, in grocery shopping, how to instruct a child, teach a child, direct a child with consequences instead of punishment. I'm going to share my screen now with you, and let's see some illustrations from this book, which are really, really instructive and very helpful. And I hope that we can have a volunteer, one of our volunteers, to read to us the left side, which is the wrong way of doing it, and the right side. Please go ahead. Our volunteer, Devorah, please go ahead.
Ooh, you're going to get it when your father gets home.
So this is a threat. We're out of control. We're losing it. What's the right way?
It would be so helpful if you picked out 3 big lemons for us.
Now, why is the right side better than losing it? I believe we're redirecting. Instead of rejecting the child, we are redirecting the child. And this is crucial to maintain a child's self-esteem. When we lose it, we have to understand when we're about to lose it, or we lose it of the child, and we say, you're going to get punched, you're going to get punished, you're not behaving properly, we are crushing their sense of self, crushing their self-esteem. On the right side, instead of rejecting them, we are redirecting them. Perhaps I'm just thinking as we're speaking now, that that's sometimes how we feel with God. When things don't go my way, I feel that God is rejecting me. When in actual fact, God is not rejecting me. The purpose of life is to grow and to become the best person I can become. but I get angry with God. I get hurt by God. I get distant from God because things don't go the way my ego wants it to go. Especially, let's say, when I'm a single parent and I'm feeling hurt and abandoned by God because of my single parenting. Why am I in the situation? And somehow I internalize that and I think about that and I put that in my subconscious mind, and it comes out when I parent. When I parent with anger, it's coming from my subconscious self of, in my situation, what else should I be doing? Get yourself behaved. Behave yourself. I lose it because subconsciously I am emotionally in turmoil. I am feeling rejected by God, and therefore I project that onto my child. Instead, if I can work through that, and I have to work through that as a parent, as a single parent, and in any situation where life does not treat me fairly or things are difficult for me, I have to try to approach this as an idea that I am not being rejected, but being redirected. God is teaching me how to grow, how to become a better person. And so too, therefore, I have to teach that to my children. Let's try the second example in the store.
You're acting like a wild animal. No TV for you tonight.
This is instinctive, impulsive, knee-jerk reaction. What is teaching? What is chinuch? What is education? The right side.
I don't really like what's going on. It's disturbing to shoppers when children run in the aisles.
So the book says expressing strong disapproval without attacking the child's character. Now, I personally am not so happy with this. This is still negative. The mother's scowling. I would prefer a different approach. In this case, by saying, there are lots of people in the store and they're doing shopping. Let's focus on our job and let's let them focus on their job. Let's be nice to them and let's show consideration for them. Instead of saying, you're inconsiderate, you're mean, you're not doing the right thing. Instead, let's try to be instructive and positive, teaching a child the right approach. Let's look at the left side. Next example.
If I catch you running again, you'll get a smack.
Again, threatening. We've lost it. Lost control. What's the right side say?
Billy, no running. Here are your choices. You can walk or you can sit in the car. You decide.
I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to say the following. Here is a crucial example. This is crucial. We have to now work on the idea of giving a child a choice. Giving choices are, you can either sit down in the cart or you can help mommy with the tomatoes. Your choice. The key in parenting is giving a child a choice. Two choices that you can live with. Two choices which give a boundary that you can live with in these two choices. The reason why choice is important is because that's the key. All we are as human beings is a bundle of choices. That's a definition of being a tselem Elohim. Being created in the image of God means that God is the one who has opportunity. He is the one who chooses. He is completely autonomous. He can do whatever he wants. He has all the choices in the world. God means opportunity. God has breathed some of us, of himself, into us. Breathe in. When you breathe in, you're consciously breathing in. You're breathing in the power of choice. That's called the godly image. Tselem Elohim, the image of God. When you breathe in and you're conscious of breathing in, we are saying, God has given me a power of choice. I can either parent with anger, or parent with projection of my own pain, or parent with education, chinuch, instruction, and preparing my child for marriage. So this is a matter of our choice, recognizing our own power of choice that God has given us. Breathe in. That's the soul state. And then project that with our child. This is the essence of parenting. And it comes from a philosophy of life, that we are here to make choices, that the power of choice, free will, is what we are. And that's an expression of godliness. And that's what we have to teach our children. You can choose this or choose that. You decide. Now, one of the techniques I use is giving out tickets. As a Zadie now, I don't give out tickets, I give out zickets. Zickets are little tickets by the Zadie. So the Zadie, instead of giving tickets as a parent, I give zickets, Zadie tickets. With permission from my children, allowing them, not interfering with their parenting plans. Can I add to your parenting process as a Zadie, giving only positivity? I don't discipline. I only give positivity. So I give out tickets for positive behavior. And when they show love, I give a ticket. So when I come in, and my twin granddaughters who are 5 years old, when I come into the house, I say, hi, Adina, hi, Sarah. They run and they give each other a hug. Can we get a ticket? So, yeah, you got a ticket. Whenever they show love, they should learn that on their own, but I can encourage it. I can give positive reinforcement of positive behavior. So that is the system called operant conditioning. Operant conditioning was an example given by Dr. Skinner. Dr. Skinner had the Skinner box experiment, where he took a box and put 2 pigeons in the box. Both boxes had a pigeon and a lever. When the pigeon touched one lever on the left box, no food came out. On the right side, when he touched the lever, a food pellet came out. He wanted to train the pigeon to touch the lever. So when there was no reinforcement on the left box, the pigeon would touch the lever once or twice an hour. On the right side, the pigeon that got rewarded with a food pellet when it touched the lever 78 times in 1 hour because he was getting reinforced. From there, he extrapolated that pigeons learn by reinforcement, and they'd applied that in human life as well, and humans perform well through reinforcement. The only way to get a child to perform is positive reinforcement of positive behavior. Lectures, anger, threats, sermons, timeouts, no timeouts. And if you do timeout, go to timeout with the child. Go to timeout with the child and process what happened with the child. Do not banish the child into exile into timeout. Why? That breeds resentment, anger, revenge fantasies. And the child trashes the room out of anger. So timeouts, I don't believe in. I believe that if you want to process it, let's go. Let's take some time out. Let's talk together. Let's process what happened. Let's calm down. That's not banishing a child to timeout. But giving child positive reinforcement by giving tickets. And after 18 tickets, I take my grandchildren to the dollar store and we get a little $1 prize. Or instead of a prize, which costs money, I take them on an outing. We're going to go to the park. We're going to play a special outing with Zadie, or a special outing with parents, or go get a Slurpee for 79 cents, or get a ice cream for $1.25. But here is the way to parent is from positive reinforcement of positive behavior. And I use tickets. I use tickets more effectively than ticks or stars. Stars are once removed. They're over there on the wall. They're in a book. They're far away. Tickets are in my hand. And the key thing of the tickets, and I give red tickets for one child and blue tickets for another child and green tickets and yellow tickets and white tickets. Different children get different colors. And I give them a Tupperware, and we paint their name on it, and we make puffy paint and decorate it. Each child has their own Tupperware, little small Tupperware for 79 cents at Target or Walmart. And we give them all their own little box of success. And they can see the tickets building up. And then they cash in the 18 tickets. We go to the store, we cash them in. They learn the value of money, the value of hard work, the value of accomplishment, the value of doing good things. Will the children come to rely on tickets? No. They learn to train themselves to do positive behavior. And when the children turn 13 or 14, they say, and my kid said this to me at 13 or 14, Abba, I don't need tickets anymore. I said, good, got it, beautiful. But I train them over time to be positive, to do the positive, to get reinforced with positive reinforcement of positive behavior. So That is training them to use their free will in a positive fashion. Will they rely on tickets? I don't think so. We are training them, and at a certain point in time, they say, I don't need tickets anymore. And that happened to me many times when my children turn 13 or 14. They say, we're okay with that. Now let's move on, and I'm going to share my screen again and move to some more examples of this idea. So here is a punishment. Left side. Go ahead, Devorah.
You asked for it.
Smack, wham. Right side.
I see you decided to sit in the cart.
Suppose he behaves badly, that mother was forced to leave the store. What then? Says Dr. Ganot. On the following day, without lecturing or moralizing, mother experiences or lets the child experience the consequences of his misbehavior. You're not running around the store, you're sitting in the cart. Or the other example we said is, this example. Let's try this one.
Mommy, where are you going? Shopping. I want to go too. Not today. Why not? You tell me why. Because I ran around in the store? You guessed it. I'm sorry. Give me another chance. There'll be plenty of other chances, Billy. Today, I'm going by myself.
So this is allowing the child to experience the consequences of their behavior. I'm going to stop the share. This is consequences. We're not punishing out of context. It's a natural consequence. It's measure for measure. And when I give consequences, I talk about mida keneged mida, measure for measure. The child hits another child, there's a hands consequence. You give me your doll for an hour. You give me your device. I don't believe in devices. I've spoken that before. I don't believe we should parent with devices. I think we should ban all devices, all tablets, all iPhones, all computer time, all Minecraft. Don't introduce it at the age of 4 and 5 and 6. Do not introduce it. I'll tell you a story. When my children, perhaps I said this before, my children were 6 and 7 years old, and they got a Game Boy 15 years ago when they first came out. My in-laws got them a Game Boy, and I said to my children, so guys, dinner time, and they were playing on the Game Boy. One was pulling it from the other, and I didn't like it. Then I said, dinner, still playing on the Game Boy. I said, come on, guys, dinner, still engrossed in the Game Boy, pulling from each other, engrossed in it. I said, that's it. I said, no more Game Boy. Give me the Game Boy, I'll put it away. My wife said, my parents got that for them. You can't take that away. I said, yes, I can. This is fostering selfishness, self-absorption, all about the ego and me. They're not focusing on each other. They're getting angry with each other. They're not listening to us. This is a bad thing. This game thing is a bad thing. It's not going to be in my house. I was adamant about it. And my wife got over it. And she realizes now that our children did not grow up with games, did not grow up with Super Mario, Pac-Man. We use that as a babysitter, like putting them in front of a television with Sesame Street or videos. It's not a good thing. It's relying on babysitting, parenting with babysitting with games. It makes the child mindless. It makes the child self-centered, self-focused, selfish, egoistic. It is not the way to parent. And I really urge you all not to introduce these devices. Everybody has it. I don't care if everybody has it. It's not the way to parent. It fosters the wrong values, the wrong midos, the wrong character of self-focus. But what else am I supposed to do? Talk to them, play with them, give them a corner of an activity corner, come up with 25, 30 things they can do creatively. Play baseball against the wall. I used to do that. I used to throw a ball against the wall for hours and hours and hours. It's not the right thing to parent with devices. It's divisive. Devices, I just thought of this. Devices are divisive. It's not the right way. Devices are divisive, and it's not a right way to parent, and it's very, very damaging to a child's development. So we're talking here about not punishing, but giving them an experience of experiencing measure for measure. So if they hit with their hands, I take away something with their hands, their doll, their baseball glove, their dollhouse, their Lego for an hour. If they kick a child, some children kick each other, there's going to be a foot consequence. Give me your inline skates, give me your rollerblades, give me your skateboard, your hoverboard for an hour or 2 hours or a day. And if you speak incorrectly, if you say nasty things to each other or to me, then there's a mouth consequence. Do not use this if there are eating issues in the family. But if there are not eating issues in the family, no eating disorder issues, then you can say there's a mouth consequence. You speak disrespectfully, if not nice things, if sour things come out of your mouth, then sweet things don't go in your mouth. Which means that tomorrow you'll get your lunch, you'll get your sandwich, you get your rice cakes, you'll get your apple, you get your fruit, your cucumber and your carrot, but you will not have cookies, you will not have your fruit roll up, you will not have a snack, chips, because tomorrow you'll realize measure for measure. That's a consequence. In this example here, when the mother the next day put the child in the cart and said, yesterday you ran around, you didn't behave. So today there's a consequence, not a punishment. It's a natural consequence of your behavior. If you run around, then you're going to sit in the cart. Natural. It makes sense. The child thinks, oh, measure for measure. Why are we doing this? God runs the world measure for measure. What we do, we get back. So too, therefore, we parent that way. You act this way with your hands, get a hands consequence. You act this way with your feet, you get a foot consequence. You act this way with your mouth, you get a mouth consequence. Measure for measure, mida connected mida. When we're parenting, we're actually teaching our children how God runs the world. That's why we find ourselves on the first set of commandments. The first 5 commandments are, I am God, do not have any gods before me, do not take God's name in vain, honor the Sabbath, remember the Sabbath day, and honor your parents. The second 5 are, do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not bear false witness, and do not covet. Well, that's between man and man. The first 5 are between man and God. Well, then why says Rabbi Yehuda Levi and the Orach Chaim, brought by the Orach Chaim, asked the question, well, what is parenting, honoring your parents, doing on the side between man and God? It should be on the man and man side. It's an interpersonal relationship, honoring your parents. Why should that be found on the man and God side? Why isn't it on the man and man side? And he answers very, very deeply and beautifully that we represent God when we parent. God is a shutaf, is a partner with us. Father, mother, and God together create a child. Father, mother put in the physical, and God puts in the spiritual, the soul. And therefore, we are on the God side of the relationship man and God because we represent God. And therefore, the ramifications of that are that we have to teach like God teaches. We have to teach our children like God teaches us. And just like, therefore, that we have self-esteem because God gave us value, breathe in a sense of value. So too, we have to give our children a sense of value when we parent. When we lecture, demand, punish, crush their self-esteem, we are not valuing their self-esteem. We are not nurturing their tselem Elokim. That's not the right way to parent. And therefore, we have to parent with self-esteem and nurturing and positive reinforcement of positive behavior. Let's move on to the last example. Sharing my screen. Dad says, Dvora.
Okay. I'm furious that my new saw was left outside to rust in the rain.
Go on.
I expect when my tools are borrowed that they be returned promptly and in good condition.
Now, this is a very strong statement. It may be true, but it's not the right tone or the right methodology of teaching a child. Here is the correct way. Go ahead.
What this saw needs now is a little steel wool and a lot of elbow grease. And a light coat of oil when you're finished will protect it for the future. I'll do it now.
So any of these approaches are enough to encourage a child to act more responsibly. Our goal is to teach responsibility. Our goal is not to punish, to hurt, to correct, but to uplift, to nurture, to develop, to teach a child how to develop themselves and make good choices. So, examples that are given in the book about going shopping are preparing beforehand for shopping. Before you go shopping, mother and child could have a rehearsal in a pretend store with props at home and play act together. And the finer points are, this is how we sit, this is how we collect groceries. Or they can write a simple book together with drawings called Johnny Goes to the Supermarket. And it includes Johnny's responsibilities as an active member of the shopping team. You, I'm appointing you as a deputy, I'm giving you a badge. You're on the mommy shopping team. And you're the one who helps push the cart, load, unload, sort, choose, help me choose the plastic bag. You have a job to do. Give them responsibility because they're distracted and they're bored and they run around. Give them a job to do. Johnny could also work on a shopping list in words or pictures, groceries that he would find and put them in the shopping cart. So these are examples of how we can prepare and handle children in an instructive, uplifting, and nurturing way, as opposed to losing it. So this is conscious parenting. Just like we are conscious of our self-esteem, we're talking about here conscious parenting, parenting with giving a child value and maintaining their self-esteem. So look forward to seeing you next week, God willing, Sunday night, 8:30, for the next installment of parenting with value and self-esteem in our Zoom support group. Thank you and good night.